The word for today is justify. We all want the best, the fastest, the king of bikes. You know the bike I'm talking about, the Kawasaki Ninja H2. Being the only 998cc inline 4 sport bike you can buy that's also supercharged, it's kind of hard to imagine any other leader bike being quite as insane as the H2. However, it's hard to justify spending 28 grand on a motorcycle, especially since the only thing the bike does the best at is going insanely fast in a straight line. It's not a comfortable bike, it's not a practical bike, it's just hard to justify spending that much money on a one-trick pony. Well, now Kawasaki has finally given us a justified version of the H2. I present to all of you the all-new sport touring motorcycle from Kawasaki, the Ninja H2 SX. Let me start off this video with a few numbers for you. 200 horsepower, 101 foot-pound of torque, 573 pounds wet, and a $19,000 MSRP. So let's get right into what this bike is and why it is worth every single last penny of your $19,000. First off, let me remind you guys what the bike's purpose is. It's a sport touring bike, so it's in the same category as something like my Honda VFR 800. Not that the two bikes are even comparable, but they are in the same category, sport touring. So we're going to look at how well this thing will be as a commuter bike and a touring bike. Comfort is the most important factor to consider when looking at a sport touring bike. Now, I have not ridden the bike yet, so I cannot tell you if it's going to be much more comfortable than the regular H2, which I have also not ridden. But we do see the handlebar height, which is taller and more rearward, which will keep your back a little bit more upright. Then we also have a seat which is not only able to accommodate a passenger, but also appears to be more plush. Also, take a look at that tall windshield. You can bet that the SX will be a lot more comfortable on the highway than the H2. Next up is features. The SX has grab handles, which is great for a passenger or to help you maneuver the bike when parking. Also, the SX has a center stand, which will make the bike easier to do maintenance on, a self-adjusting easy pull hydraulic slipper clutch as well, KYB fully adjustable monoshock rear suspension, and also a remote shock preload adjuster, and the front fork is fully adjustable for compression and rebound damping as well as preload. The SX also allows for not only passengers, but optional side bags, which will be useful for touring and commuting. The optional side bags come with a one-key system and can each accommodate a full-face helmet. Stopping this beast on the front wheel is two massive 320mm semi-floating discs with opposed 4-piston monoblock calipers, and the rear gets a 250mm disc with a twin piston caliper. The brakes also come with something called KIBS, which is Kawasaki Intelligent Brake System, which is another fancy way of saying that it has ABS. The SX also features a trellis frame design similar to the H2. Now for technology, the SX has an electronic cruise control, which is going to be a huge benefit for those of us who plan on using this bike for a lot of highway miles. Of course, as you would expect with any modern bike making this kind of horsepower, the SX has its own advanced traction control system and power modes, which include a full, middle, and low. Adjustable engine braking, no TFT display in the SX model, but more on that later. But you do get a solid LCD screen with an analog tachometer, which I actually do prefer. And yes, the display does come with a fuel gauge, tripometer, current and average mileage calculator, a fuel consumption meter, a bank angle display with a recording function, boost indicator, coolant and ambient temperatures, a clock, a gear indicator, and a digital speedometer, and much more. The SX is equipped with LED headlights for the lamp and taillight. Now this is the SX model. There is of course another one, the SX SE model, which will be referred to as the SE model. The SE model comes in at $22,000. For your extra $3 grand, the SE comes with heated grips, a full color TFT display, LED cornering lamps, a larger windscreen, DC outlets, plus some special colors and graphics, also a up and down quick shifter and launch control. Now back to some other things, mainly fuel economy and range, because this is a cool bike, but the H2 only gets about 26 miles per gallon, and although Kawasaki hasn't mentioned anything about the specifics of the fuel economy of the SX, they did mention that it'd be on par with the Versys 1000, which is around 36 miles per gallon, so with a 5-gallon tank, we can expect somewhere around 180 mile range, which is not terrible. Of course, that is if my assumptions are true. I do want to take this time and mention something very important about the SX compared to the H2. The engine may be the same, but it is not exactly the same. The piston, cylinder head, cylinder, crankshaft, and camshafts are all new and different. Kawasaki has changed the engine to be more street-friendly and easier to ride, with more mid-range torque and being more touring-friendly. Kawasaki doesn't exactly say this next part, but with a less aggressive engine, you can expect the SX to be more reliable than the H2. Not that the H2 is unreliable, but the SX is designed in a way to eat up more miles than something like an H2 would be, so that is a good thing. Now this is the part I'm going to compare the SX to the competition, which would be bikes like the Honda ST1300 and the Yamaha FJ1300. I know that they're 1300 cc's versus 1000 cc's, but that supercharger really changes the game. And they're both sport touring bikes, and they both fall into that MSRP of just under 20 grand. ST1300, we're going to start with Honda. Horsepower, unknown. I tried everywhere to find the number. I couldn't find them though. The latest number I could find was somewhere around 120 horsepower. I really doubt this bike only makes that though. It has to make more. So we'll leave this one blank. Same story with the torque. I just have no info on it. But I do have information on the weight, and it's about 730 pounds wet. The MSRP is $18,230, and the fuel economy range is 270 miles, and the miles per gallon is 35. Some special features that it has, it's shaft driven, and this isn't really a feature as much as a WTF moment for Honda, but a 5-speed transmission, which, come on Honda, it's a 1300cc bike, give it the 6-speed. It does have a V4 engine, and it has 2 standard hard saddlebags that come with the bike. Now we also have the Yamaha FJR1300ES. Horsepower, about 145 torque, 102 foot-pound, weight, 642 pounds wet, MSRP, $18,000. The range, 235 miles, 36 miles per gallon. Unique features that the FJR has, it's shaft driven, heated grips are standard, it has a built-in glove box with a 12-volt outlet, and it also comes with 2 saddlebags. Now we got the Ninja H2 SX, which has 200 horsepower, 101 foot-pound of torque, 573 pounds wet, an MSRP of 19 grand, a range of around 180 miles per gallon, 35. Again, both of those numbers, huge asterisks next to them. It could be completely false. I do not know yet. Here's 2 features that nobody should overlook, especially the second one. First off, you have the supercharger, which nobody can overlook. That is the #1 thing. However, you also have a single-sided swing arm, which is not only looks great, but so much easier to deal with. To remove the wheel, change the tires, it's so easy to do. So what's the best bike out of the 3? Well, this is purely what's on paper, since I've yet to ride any of these bikes, so please keep all of that in mind. And I know the FJR and the ST are 1300 cc's and the SX is only 1000, but the SX still makes a ton more power, and it also weighs 70 pounds less than the FJR and nearly 160 pounds less than the ST1300. I get it, the ST and the FJR have superior fuel ranges that are well into the 200s, almost 300 for the Honda, but Kawasaki's modest 180 range is probably right around that bottom number for touring. That's kind of within reason. Again though, 180 is just a guess, it could be higher or lower. I also get that the SX is more expensive by $800 than the Honda and $1,000 more than the Yamaha, and it doesn't come standard with luggage unless you opt to pay even more money. But the choice is obvious here, guys. The SX blows the other 2 straight out of the water. It is not even close. You are getting so much more power with the Kawasaki, and it's so much lighter, and the price is well within the range that is reasonable. It's only $1,000. I mean, it's well worth that extra grand. You can justify buying the SX. It makes sense. In fact, with the SX being released this year, how on earth could you justify buying the FJR 1300 or ST 1300 anymore? Honda and Yamaha, you have to step your game up, or Kawasaki is going to continue to drive you right into the ground. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I make a new video every single week. Thank you for watching, take care, and bye-bye.